Sure. Welcome to our Director Roundtable, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. This is just a department head update, a more in-depth look at the departments. And who wants to start?
Well, let me start.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, we have a lot going on. I'm sure everybody's aware of that. We're in the painstaking process of trying to paint a 2 million gallon tank on Fairhope Avenue. The project has been a lot slower than what we would have anticipated. I regret the issues we're having with cell phone coverage. You know, the temporary service that was provided has proven to be inadequate, but we're trying to push the contractor and we're trying to keep the project moving forward. We are looking now at maybe notifying the bonding company to see if there's any movement they can do toward trying to get the contractor more manpower on the site. We got the substation project. The upgrades for the substation project is under contract with a consultant. We'll wind up improving 4 of the 5 substations. 2 of them will retire from service and add 1 substation that will replace those 2. The last detail on that particular part of the project will be choosing the site that we'll use for that substation. It'll either be the southeast corner of Simpson Field or the property on the northwest corner of Nichols and Young. Hopefully we can resolve that shortly. The consultant is putting together the technical information to bid the transformers and the switch gear and the things that are required for the total project. So we're not behind schedule, but we still need to move forward. We have 3 of the 5 of the phase 1 sewer rehab projects under contracts with consultants. Those projects include the Church Street outfall system, the outfall system on Fairhope Avenue, Fairwood, and Bayou Drive, and then the mapping updates that we need in order to continue our sewer rehabilitation work that is ongoing now. The other 2 projects, we're working with the agreement now for council approval, hopefully at the next council meeting, on the replacement of the lift station on Fells and South Mobile Street. We're also working to assess the condition of the infrastructure of the wastewater system at the Grand Hotel property and that surrounding area. Hope to find some inflow issues that we can resolve there with that project, and in terms of recommendations for how to get that resolved. Let's see here. We've got the video camera for the sewer system was delivered. The van and the housing unit for that's delivered. The camera system itself, we're looking to increase the capacity of that camera so we can do stormwater video as well. We'll take that to council at the next meeting, and then we'll be off and running on the sewer rehab. And then the outfall main, we're under contract with a consultant for that, and we're working on the details for the repair of the outfall main, and hopefully that project will be moving forward as well. We're working on some electrical upgrades at the municipal pier for the marina and some of the under pier lights that Hurricane Nate wiped out. And that project's taking a little bit extra time because the system just needs to be upgraded and brought up to code. So we're trying to be judicious in how we get that done, and then working with a consultant there too. So we've got a lot to do. I'm real proud of all of the operators that are maintaining these systems. You know, water with 1 tank being out, you know, we're trying to watch that very closely. We still encourage people, if they can, to minimize irrigation, whether that be reduce the frequency they irrigate or decrease the duration of the time that they do irrigate. So that can help if people can do that. And it's real hot, and that's not a good sign for some of these substations. We need to be aware that you know, if there's a way to save energy you know, maybe start looking at that too. We turned on 2 generators today to reduce some of the load that we saw at some of the substations. So we're working on our end to minimize any potential for those systems to be overloaded, and we're just working to do our best to keep going what we have. And that's all my report.
Thank you so much. That is all.
Really, just want to move around the table? That'd be just fine. You know, unfortunately, as most everybody here knows, we've been pretty busy. The good news is that we have have really had some things break open for us in some of the cases that we were working, and a couple of these incidents that we've had. I think that we should see some headway in that real soon, and then that will be a relief, I think, to some neighborhoods. Again, just like we probably take every opportunity to say, y'all help us encourage everybody to lock their cars or don't leave valuables in them. A lot of these stolen guns are ending up in the hands of the wrong people, and so we need to try to curb that. I'm supposed to meet with the judge later on this week, and I know you're aware of this. We're going to look at the possibility of moving the magistrates, renaming the police department the Justice Center, so that more encompassing, and trying to find room for the magistrates to come over there, which would probably really help y'all's lobby and the city hall quite a bit without going any further than that. And but in doing that, the difficulty that we're going to have is finding room for them. We do not have any available offices, so I don't know if the possibility is of maybe throwing a couple walls up and framing in something small or something. I could possibly put a few things together, but it really all I could free up is maybe one office, and we're looking for 3. So any ideas or suggestions with that? You know, of course, we'd love to have another building altogether or something small to lease, but that's not going to be something that's going to happen overnight. So, but if anybody has any, you know, we need more privacy than what the little cubicles would provide. Anyhow, if anybody has any ideas with that, that'd be great, and maybe the judge will have some insight. Maybe he's got some ideas that I haven't thought of, and we'll find that out. But I do think that overall that would be good for everybody involved. And then our postings on the officer positions end in June, so I'd like to get with you and maybe HR, and from what I understand, when I checked last week, we had like 31 applications, which is that's good, because we didn't have that many last time, even though we wound up hiring the guy we needed, or I guess we're supposed to get. This time we do have more applications to go through, which is encouraging. So when June 30th gets here and that closes, I'd like to put that in action pretty quick, get that done as quick as possible, because we need that help, and that's all I got.
And I want to clarify that you're looking for another location for a satellite office.
Yeah, it would be great to have a satellite office.
And that's what we want to, have something, east of town.
Right.
Because, that's where we're growing, and that's really where we need to have another office. So.
And in the immediate future, maybe even doing something with our back lot where we can come out the back through that back gate right there, maybe put an automatic gate, because we still need the security of the gate being closed with all our police cars and equipment. Right. But would give officers and the civilian personnel another option is getting out of the parking lot, because as y'all know, especially with the new retail, the new restaurants and stuff right across the street from us, and the food delivery trucks being parked in the middle of the road and stuff, it's just getting really dangerous to get out on the road.
We should look at that as soon as possible. Thank you.
And Mayor, I kind of wanted to give you a bigger picture look at Public Works and kind of where we've been able to get to and where we're trying to go. I think the challenge that you gave us was to evaluate our organizational structure, look for areas of opportunity, look for areas of inefficiency, and that's been a real positive process in Public Works. I think that we have streamlined some things. For example, facility maintenance is probably the one lagging indicator, but we are trying to flesh that out, and I can tell you, in part of the budgetary process, for the first time, facility maintenance is working with the finance and also making sure those affected departments are being informed of, hey, you need to be thinking about your air conditioner system in this building or this, and so that's kind of getting picked up. And and one of the things discussed about trying to find homes for orphans in the city, we've kind of brought emergency management under the auspices of coordination with Public Works. This morning we had a true emergency management committee meeting where we had representation from fire, from police, from emergency management, from Public Works, from utilities, community development, public information. And I'm excited that communication and that synergy has been developed, and all Public Works is doing is just being a facilitator to bring those folks together. And I think that we've already had the opportunity, and with the help of council and you, is looking at changing some additional organizational structure as far as how we're doing sanitation, with kind of moving away from the inmate program and having actual hoppers doing those jobs. So I'm excited that one, I think we've got a good handle on what we are, what we need to become, and I think probably the most impressive thing is in the evaluation system. We asked every individual to evaluate themselves, and that was a learning process for everybody, because one of the questions is, do you feel like you fully know what your job requirements are? And if somebody said no, it was an opportunity for that supervisor to do some training and hands-on there. As a result of not only looking at our organization or how we're doing things, I do want to report to you that probably the most dramatic change that we've seen is in our solid waste operations. As I stated in the supervisors meeting, we've gone from every day having half a dozen calls that you missed me or you've forgotten about me or when are y'all coming, to where we're getting written response, thank you for the good service, thank you for taking care of that. And I can tell you, basically for this first quarter, we're probably closing on 100% on time, on schedule service in our sanitation operations. And you know what? It makes for happier employees when they're not feeling like they're under the gun or they're behind or whatever. And much as that is due to you and the council support to get equipment and plus filling positions that were open and making that a priority. I think one of the areas that we're definitely seeing improvements is our capital projects, and especially the execution of those. We have spent an inordinate amount of time on our procurement, just learning exactly how it works, and knowing how it works makes for a more efficient route through it. Had a lot of projects that had kind of gotten lost in the mix, and getting those out, getting the pedestrian bridge finally finished on a TAP grant that was from 2015, 3 years ago. We've got TAP 2016 and TAP 27 at ALDOT for final review and approval, and hopefully they're going to give us thumbs up in the next few days, and we'll get those to Jillian and her staff to get out on the street for bids, so we're bringing those back to the council for approval. And we've handled a lot of capital projects in-house. Part of your vision was that having some expertise that can do certain things that save us money, whether it be the street paving package is completely out on the street for advertisement right now and bids, and there was no engineering cost associated outside of the offices of Public Works. Same for this bulkhead fuel tank. Those little things add up. It may be a savings of $2,000 or $3,000, but you do enough of those that it starts to return a significant thing there. Probably our biggest capital improvements that we keep an eye on and looking at is opportunity for drainage improvements. We were successful with the support of council to do a private public with the Fairhope Avenue drainage. If you haven't noticed, those pipes are going in the ground now, and everybody say a prayer for no rain for a few more weeks, but that's going to make a significant difference in that drainage basin, especially there at Fairhope Avenue and upstream of there, to have a system that can handle that flow. And we've already identified several projects in-house that we want to complete. One of them is again, believe it or not, on Fairhope Avenue at North Bayview. We're going to hopefully get that one done this summer. Not a big project, but again, it will be solving a maintenance as well as an undersizing problem. working with Sherry Lee and everybody else, we've been successful in grants. We've got so many out there that we're waiting response on. It's a little scary because if they all start calling back and saying yes, but the one I'm excited about is today you should see an application for the Highway Safety Improvement Project for the roundabout to sign, so we can forward that officially to ALDOT. It is complete, and as we understand it, it's a lock. So we're going to be getting funded about $1.3 million with only a 10% match. So we're almost getting 1.17 million for a $130,000 investment on our part to get a roundabout there on the north end of Section Street. And you know, the other big things that you don't ever see, but in first thing we did in the last quarter of the calendar year, we were behind on our outfall assessments. We got 1/5 of them done with in-house forces. We sent letters out to POAs and other entities that had maintenance responsibilities for their stormwater management systems. And the most amazing thing, I would say we're over 70% of those that had a compliance issue called us back, met with us, and have effectively repaired those things or done that maintenance, which I'm really been pleased with. The good news is for this year, Sherry Lee got us a grant, so we got at no cost to us, a third party who's doing those, and that's underway now. And we are officially underway in the data part of gathering for our first watershed study, which is Tatumville.
So Kim doesn't have to brave the snakes.
So,
Oh, my gosh.
a lot of those things that our public really don't see, but every time we work with a POA or a commercial property owner and they fix a drainage problem that needs to be addressed, we are potentially keeping an adverse effect to some downstream property owner from happening. And you do enough of those, you start making things better for everybody.
I can tell you, I don't get as many calls anymore, that's for sure.
Well, our goals is that the council and you only get the good calls from,
Right.
Going here for you. But there's always going to be some concerns, but we've gotten that. The one at Quail Creek that you're aware of, we do have NRCS involvement for emergency watershed protection. The only downside of that is that there has to be a qualifying event before the money is released, i.e. a qualified event is a severe storm event that floods. But I'm not wishing for that or hoping for that, but if it does happen, they've identified that as a fundable project. So we're excited about what's going on, and I think being here, you know, coming into this budget year, almost, you know, got 9 months under the belt, we did finished with Jill today, and at least she gave us thumbs up that she felt like we have completed the Public Works, at least a preliminary budget for you to review, and then eventually for you know, us to discuss and then the council to deal with. And I feel like that we've been very proactive and try to look ahead and really you know, plan for a budget that meets our organizational needs and our operation needs, and I'm just excited about the future.
I think that's all good news. Did you want to mention anything about meeting about the purchasing process, or we can save that for another time?
I do, and we've, you know, I will brag on Jillian Saffel. She has come in and you talk about, you know, right out of the frying pan into the fire. That's been her process. But, you know, not only has she really drilled down and has been really good about working with everybody, she has at least defined the processes as they are dictated by ordinances. And now that we have the treasurer involved and the major players, including Jillian, looking at opportunities to make it a better process. Still compliant, still meeting all the checks and balances and everything else, but just trying to have an approach that is efficient, but yet still compliant to everything that we need to meet at. And I see everything there moving in the right direction.
I thought that was a good meeting.
Yes.
And hopefully we can get that started with this 2019 budget. So thank
Does he
you.
want to say anything about the municipal pier being taken down today? Apparently there are a lot of questions about whether or not we're taking the municipal pier down.
I didn't hear that.
We are
not taking the municipal pier down, no.
I think some council people heard that, and we've heard it on social media.
Yeah, my wife read it on Facebook.
Yeah.
The city had decided to demo the pier, and demolition started today.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
I have verified.
Can
there's
they
no one down
refund
there,
Okay.
no one down there
Have not
demoing the
seen
pier.
that one.
So.
I just found out about it, but yeah, thought it might be good to set that straight.
Okay.
Not happening.
Well, the planning department's been very busy. We are still recruiting for a planning technician position. We had someone identified, and unfortunately they chose a planning position and with more money, so I don't blame them for that. But so we're going to be doing that again, going through that process, trying to identify someone who's a good fit for the department, and we can have a lot of confidence and trust in. You know, it's been very busy. We've done made some improvements, I believe, to our process. I think from the standpoint of how we deal with our applicants, we're a lot more communicative with them and giving them feedback, and thanks to Buford and Nancy for that. They do a good job with that, and we're trying to make this process as easy as we can on everybody involved, and trying to communicate them what our rules are and also helping them comply with that. Our job is to help people comply with our rules, and so I think we've done a good job with that. I want to compliment them for the job they've done with that, along with everyone's help with that. So we're very, very happy that's been going well. I do want to talk about one thing that we've been working on in our spare time, and that is the downtown parking study. I know that Officer Hamrick a minute ago mentioned some parking issues. We have started this process. It's a pretty laborious process, but we've started to analyze the parking downtown. Steve C. has been very, very helpful with us and doing a parking inventory of all the parking spaces and where they're located and so forth, and that part is complete, and so he has done a good job with that. And we've identified these in terms of on-street parking, surface lot parking, all public, also restricted parking that's private. We're looking at that as well. And the next part of this that we have recently completed is looking at the parking demand. We have totaled up all the square footage of the businesses downtown and what kind of businesses they are. We are now applying a pretty standard rate of parking generation. So basically, per 1,000 square feet, how much does each particular type of use generate in parking demand? And what we've used to determine that is the ITE, the Institute of Transportation Engineers. They have a parking generation manual that's used throughout the country, and also the Urban Land Institute also has a parking generation manual that we use. We're going to use that and try to project out the parking demand, compare that to the inventory we have, to see if we have a deficit or if we were at the appropriate levels and so forth. Trying to determine, where we stand with parking. If we find out we have a huge deficit, then we'll need to start looking at other ways to fix that issue, and also, and it could be through the current wayfinding program we have, where we're identifying the existing parking decks that's many times underutilized, and so we're looking at that very heavily. Also, we're looking at how far these parking lots are away from the demand areas. Most people don't want to walk more than 5 or 10 minutes from the parking lot to a particular area, so we're also looking at that. If in fact we do have a problem, one of the things that we wanted to kind of float the idea of is we currently charge impact fees throughout the city. One of the things we'd like to look at potentially, if we do find a problem, is can we identify an area around downtown that these impact fees maybe could go to, helping alleviate some of the parking issues, maybe better define parking, restripe some of the parking areas to get more parking, some things like that. So that's definitely on our mind. We're looking at that. These are something, again, we're doing in-house, so it takes a little more time. But with Steve C's help, Buford King's been a big help as well as Richard has. We hope to try to see where we stand and then determine where to go from there. As always, we want to make very data-driven decisions. We don't want to make decisions just knee-jerk. We want to see the data and then determine what's the appropriate way to go after that. So we've been working on that in our spare time, and hopefully we'll have some information soon. Once we do, we want to prepare a report and present it to everybody once we have that report done. So again, I think that's part of the planning process, and we'll continue to do things such as that, and try to make, again, data-driven decisions so we know where we stand and know where we need to make improvements at.
Very good. Do we want to talk about possibly incentivizing some of these other parking spaces, at least get the idea out that, we may have to do metering in some of the prime, if the data.
Right. And preparing for this downtown parking study, I looked at many parking studies from Seattle to Houston to Maine to Florida, you name it, and the same things come up again and again and again on all those, and it's some of the same things we experience here. One of the things we've heard a lot about is people parking in front of their stores. I think in every parking study that I read, that was a common theme in those parking studies. And so we are exploring different methods that maybe we may be able to implement here, to try to, better manage our parking that we have. So yes, ma'am. So we're open to all that. We're looking for alternatives, but first we want to see where we really stand. If we do have a deficit, if it's close, then we want to go the next step and explore the other opportunities and other mitigation measures we might want to implement.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, the Recreation Department. It's a busy time of year, and the little things excite us, and that's what I have is several little things. But first of all, we got a big Eagle Scout project that a scout's working on, and we're partnering with him to. He's putting in some benches and sod around the new batting cage that was recently built this spring. And it's like I said, the little things excite us. And also, another big thing on our plate is the new maintenance building at the Fairhope Soccer Complex. Richard and his crew with Public Works, the carpenters, came out last week, and a couple of my guys jumped in and helped poured that slab. It's 35 by 50. It's a big deal for us. We're getting a building out there. It's going to save us a lot of man hours, a lot of wear and tear on the equipment from going back and forth. It's better on the equipment with all the electronics on anything nowadays, even lawnmowers, to keep that stuff out of the weather and not driving them back and forth over to the founder's shop. So that's a really, really big deal with us. Also, we've got some, last year we replaced half the equipment inside the rec center. We're going to replace the other half coming up here pretty quick. We've got some bids on the street. And then we're also looking forward to a renovation at the swimming pool this winter. Everything goes well with the budget. We hope to replaster and paint and spray foam and do a lot of work out there. And also working on the exterior of the building. Richard Peterson's been a huge asset with that, getting all that done. And then moving on, Fairhope Docks Marina. The selling of fuel has been a long time coming. It's finally happening. They're pumping fuel down there 7 days a week right now. Things are going real well. And besides, beyond the fuel aspect of the marina, every time you go down there, you don't notice all the big changes, but there's work being done every day to keep things safer. Just the overall condition of the piers. There's always some electrical work and some in the works to be done out there to better serve the people that have their boats there. But every time you go out there, there's just something going on, and you may not notice it unless you're there every day, but there are improvements happening. And speaking of improvements, out at the Quail Creek Clubhouse, every time you set foot out there on that property, that building's coming along and coming along. The siding's done. They're working on windows, and it's just it's been a long time coming. Something that was really needed, and it's finally happening. And it takes longer than you want, but that's how construction goes. You think it should go quicker, but it's moving along. Every day there's people out there working. It just is looking fantastic, and that moves right on into the golf grounds. We've made some huge improvements out there. Jeff Williams and his crew, with the help of Jeff Marks. Jeff has a lot to say out there, and the guys are just have a different attitude. The greens, I went out there again today. The greens are, the best I've ever seen out there. And the customers are agreeing with us too. We've got nothing but compliments coming in all the time. The complaints have gone way down. Jeff and his crew were, again, redoing the bunker on 2, and they're also working on the tee box on 3. So those are some things that have been sorely needed to be repaired, and there's dirt and equipment on the ground and shovels working. So I think probably by the end of the week, both those projects may be wrapped up. I think that's all I have.
That's great news.
And I volunteer, Wayne and I, if you want a fact-finding group
Right.
to go out
Just
and
go
check.
ahead and look at every hole
Just
and-
let us know.
I'll drive the golf
Fairway.
cart.
Exactly. I can go with you.
Okay.
I would
But
just
I'm
like
beginning.
to, yeah, I just want to interject real quickly while we're talking about the golf clubhouse. I want to thank Tom and his crew for stepping in and helping out there, because it was not under Parks and Recs before, and it is now, but Tom's really taken on a project, and you've gone a long way, Tom, to make the difference out there.
Thank you very
Along
much.
with the guys.
And, I do want to put out, just, I think the one thing that I can say is that every person at this table I interact with on a regular basis, and I think we probably have, I don't know what it was like before, but as far as I'm concerned, the interdepartmental relationships are just phenomenal.
Agreed.
Working with him on the slab and his folks jumping in there, and here's the reality: we probably saved the city $15,000 to $20,000 in hard cash by doing what we can in-house that we know we can do correctly and well. Same with the fuel tank slab. It's just, I cannot tell you, it's just a pleasure to work with everyone around this room. We may have our differences, and like a good family, we may have our spats, but at the end of the day, we kind of get together and do that. And it's such a pleasure because Public Works interacts with all these folks, and our
very
police on
collaborative.
special events that we're supporting. They're just absolutely phenomenal. So, I just think that's the one thing that bothers me is that if you read the paper, you would say there's disharmony in Fairhope, but if you come and stand in my shoes for a day, you will not find more harmonious type
I agree.
folks. So,
Agreed.
Great.
I'll piggyback on that. Well, okay, I'll one-up you. And a kudos to Public Works for picking up an enormous amount of yard debris in front of my house. So my husband was so impressed. He said, I cannot believe I don't even see a twig. There's nothing here. So he asked me to pass that thanks along. And of course, I feel grateful too, because I'm not out there listening to him complain, trying to pull the rest of the twigs up.
But if you ever watch those guys, those trash truck drivers, they're almost surgical with that piece of equipment, and then what they can't get, they jump down, they grab a rake.
It's
And I mean, I see them
unbelievable.
all over town. They do a great job.
And the service is,
well, and that's, that's the one thing is that I really am very sensitive about sanitation operations, because all of our citizens deserve the public works service that they deserve, and we want it to be the best. But I look not only as our sanitation, they're our citizens, but they're customers. They pay a fee monthly, and we want to make sure we're giving them a top-notch service. And that means climbing down from the truck and taking the yard broom and leaving no debris behind, and trying not to pick up the sod sometimes or whatever, which is hard to do. I'll tell you, and I have a soft spot for our sanitation folks when it's this time of year or when it's the dead of winter, because it's not fun out there right now. I went and looked at one little job today and about melted in 15 minutes. So, but they every day they do it with a smile on their face.
they
We
do.
appreciate that.
Which brings me to actually to crowdsourcing. I'm just going to mention that real quick. I think we touched on the fact that Everbridge is going to does have a feature for crowdsourcing for people reporting things, concerns they have. So it could be anything from, you forgot to pick up my recycling, which of course it doesn't happen anymore, and to there's a pothole, to there's a rabid fox, which I hope we don't see again. So anything like that, and it will be something you can take a picture and send it to us. And we're working on the menu now, and Richard, you sent me some good feedback this morning, and we'll continue to get feedback and refine it, but we'll let you know when it's up and ready. Jeff will send out an Everbridge alert to let people know that it's ready. So that's a great way for people to report issues. Wayne did not touch on this, but I'll touch on it and you can jump in. Working on, if council gives me the go-ahead in the work session, a grant proposal for helping us pay for half of this visual preference survey that we want to do, and this is primarily focused on the Greeno Road corridor to get people to share feedback to us through professionals that will guide them, and they can vote on things they would like to see, things they don't want to see. People say we don't want Greeno Road to look like Airport Boulevard, but we need to know what they do like, and This
Right.
will help us.
And, you know, as Shirley said, so many times we hear what we don't want to look like. We don't want to look like Airport Boulevard or what have you. So we hear what we don't want to look like, but we don't hear what you want us to look like. And this visual preference survey uses a series of photographs and pictures and diagrams, and it helps people understand. It works phenomenally. I've been through this before. It helps people understand and visualize things that they can look at and say, I think that looks good for Greeno Road. I think that looks good for Fairhope, for downtown, wherever it is. And so they're actually putting, you know, you choose which ones you like. And so there's hundreds and hundreds of pictures that you look at. It's everything from landscaping to benches to architectural to mixed-use buildings to building locations close to the road, far from the road, parking in the front, parking in the rear, you know, light fixtures, the whole 9 yards. And it goes through that and really helps us kind of articulate to the public, here's the things that we're looking at, tell us what you like. And what we get back is really a report that shows that the people who participated like this sort of development, they like the way that looks and other things look, and then it helps us determine what we need to move forward with as far as any kind of corridor plan for Greeno Road or any kind of plan we have when we start looking at replacing benches or replacing street lights or even new landscaping standards. It really helps us really get feedback in a proper way that we can visualize, that we can then take and then put into a written form or a diagram that will go into our ordinances for future development. And I think it's a key tool. The grant is
It's the National Realtors Association.
Right.
And so it's just, you know, it's shy of, you know, dictating any sort of design standards, but it does help us go in that direction.
And the feedback, they will solicit feedback from a number of ways. It won't just be one small meeting where people come. I mean, you know, we'll have everybody have a ample chance, an ample opportunity to tell us what they like. Because again, we hear a lot about what we don't like, but let's kind of flip that and tell us what you do like, so we know how to move forward.
And we'll probably do something through Everbridge and social media and direct people to a survey that they can take a visual survey online. So it'll be fun, and it'll be interesting to see what comes out of that. So we are working on that, and it's a big project, but we're on the right path.
That's right.
And then another project we're working on with Public Works, actually, it's the same funder, is this pocket park at the library. So that's moving forward. We're working with the Eastern Shore Art Center on a mural that's going to go around the cinder block wall by where the farmers market is.
And George will be back Monday, so we'll be back on schedule on that.
Good. We're ready to roll. So that'll be exciting. It'll be a place for people to sit, and ultimately that whole, when the construction's finished on the library roof, we'll do more seating and things, benches, places for the kids for the walking school bus program to gather before school. It's going to be a really nice pocket park, and we need it. Been working with Tom on writing a grant. This is a technical assistance grant, kind of like what we've done at the marina, but this is with the National Park Service. We are working on, they will come in and devise, or work with us to devise a recreation master plan. And they did the same process when they created the Eastern Shore Trail here. They worked with the Trailblazers at the time, not as much with the city. Trailblazers kind of led that, but this time they'll work with us. I've already met with them once. We had a conference call with them on Thursday, and this will help Tom with long-term planning for the next 20 to 30 years. I said, well, you'll be here, and he said he wouldn't, but I don't accept that. Can't imagine Tom not being here ever. So it'll be great to have their expertise on this as we decide what are the best ways we can grow in all of our recreational needs, and how can we make sure that we're connected so people can walk or ride their bikes between our facilities. I'd like to touch on Vibrio for a second. We had a lot of panic about the Vibrio down at the municipal pier at the beach. We've been talking to the state health department and to Baldwin County Health Department. We're working now on the language for signs that'll go out there, and some sanitary stations. Richard you were out on vacation, so we did not get to talk about the showers, but that's something else that's a recommendation that we could do, that we'll also look at. We don't have to, but we can recommend that people shower if we have facilities in our restrooms.
Would this be kind of like when you come off a lot of the public beaches?
Exactly.
It's just an open area where you can hose yourself off, and
That's
it has
right.
a hose as well as a head above?
That's right.
That's something we could do. Yeah.
And then some common sense, pointers for if you have a fresh tattoo or an open wound or something, you may not want to go into the water. I mean, it's just Vibrio exists everywhere. It's not just here.
And this is the season.
And this, yeah, when it's hot, when it's warmer out, definitely it's more prolific. So Community Park, I'll say we wrapped up the South Fairhope Community Action Plan. One part of that was we discussed a park on Young Street at the Rotary Youth Center, and we're going to continue that conversation to rebuild that park and open it up again to the community. So we're working with Rotary Youth and others in the community on that project. And other than that, the only other thing I'll touch on is the reverse angle parking, because it's come up quite a bit. I've had some interesting feedback. It's been fun to email with citizens about that. My first question is, have you tried it? Which usually is no, but okay, I will. I think we're getting about 80% compliance now. On the weekends, I notice people get a little more lazy with it, you know.
I think it's just visitors more.
More visitors, and there's
yeah.
no traffic, so they're like,
Right.
let me just swing around. But
I like Richard's idea about the sign.
I do too. Richard's idea was we'd have a sign on the side of the building that says, if you can read this, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So
Just at the end of the parking space, because if you pull in forward, you can read the sign. If you back in.
that's right. So I like that too.
And if we do it reverse, then if you can read in your rearview mirror, so you did it right. And you'll be able to read it instead of being, skewed.
And I just keep reminding people two things. One is this is the result of two different studies that we've had. This is for safety for our pedestrians and drivers. So the two things are, we had two studies done here. What good are studies if we don't at least try the recommendations? And the other thing is, this is for the safety of our community and our visitors. So if it's recommended that this is a safe approach or safer than what we're doing now, I think we have a responsibility to try it, and that's what we're doing. This is a test on Johnson. So we got another maybe month left of it, so I hope everyone tries it.
Good. Is that everything? All updates? Well, thank you for joining us, and we will be here before the next work session.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.